Welcome to ChoreoCollab Podcast, where we discuss dance, film, collaboration, and more. Brought to you by Central Florida Choreographers Collaboration. I'm your host, Amanda Van Meter Birch. Today I'll be talking with Anna Smith about her collaboration with us for Season 3, Project 25, I'm Still Dancing. Hi, Anna. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you on.
I'm excited to chat.
Me too. Okay, so let's jump right in. How did you get started in the dance world?
So I started dancing when I was 5 years old. I have a memory of seeing ballet on TV and fell in love with it and begged to start dance lessons. And then it was part of my life ever since.
You're mostly ballet. Have you ventured off to do other genres, or is that sort of just your specialty?
So ballet's definitely been my main specialty, my first love. I did eventually start dabbling in other styles in my teens, and I was always the bunhead though in jazz class and things like that. But I started to find the value in all styles and how those styles would help my ballet, and just started developing a love of dance in general. And so started to fall in love with modern and contemporary and various other styles as well.
Okay. So when did it click for you that this is what you wanted to do long term?
I think I was in my teens, and I had a particularly special teacher. And she was saying something along the lines of, I'm proud of all of you, even if you don't pursue this as your career path. And then all of a sudden in the back of my mind, I was like, but I want to. And all of a sudden it clicked that I was like, well, this is actually what I do want to do. And it was interesting that was the moment where I was like, wait.
Right.
But yes, I think I was probably around like 14 or so when I suddenly was like, wait, this is very important to me and I want to pursue this.
Tell us a little bit about your project.
All right. So my project is titled I'm Still Dancing. The inspiration for it came actually last year. Around this time, I had a very big injury. I pulled my calf muscle pretty severely and could not, I could barely walk for a while. It was around the time that the company I'm dancing with was about to do Nutcracker. So I did a lot of sitting on the sidelines and watching. I knew I wanted to still participate in some way. So I was kind of working with helping run the music and take notes in class and things like that. But it's never fun to sit and watch when you're supposed to be dancing, or you want to be dancing. So I was sitting on the sidelines a lot and thinking about how I would try to participate in class by moving my arms along with everybody, and stretching and just doing whatever I could. And I was thinking, just because I'm not participating in the way I want to be, I'm still sort of dancing here in my corner, and I'm still a part of the dance world. I still see myself as a dancer, even though I'm not actively participating. And that was a very important thing that I wanted to explore. Injury and illness and things like that is a big part of just being human, and then being a part of a dancer's life. There's always something that's going to come up. And so yes, I wanted to dive into this and explore it and see how art can be created, even if maybe you don't have full use of your body in a certain way. It still can be a beautiful thing. There's a lot you can do, even if you're injured.
Very true. And it was a piece that spoke to me personally. It was a topic that I can relate. I was injured in college. And I was sort of a late bloomer going through the collegiate process. And so I was older than most of the dancers, and I ended up completely rupturing my ACL. And so I get it. Yes. The not walking, the not being able to dance. And you sort of detailed, you paralleled the grieving process to an injury. Talk a little bit about that.
So that connection started to happen actually after I had started working on the choreography. Um, it sort of hit me one day while I was working on it that dancers do sort of go through those stages of grief when having a serious injury. It's like there's the denial stage where it's like, oh, it's just today, I'm going to come back tomorrow and dance full out. I don't have to take a break. And like all these little steps along the way where, the bargaining, and it's like, okay, no, I'm going to be really good this week. And then next week I'll get back into it. And it's like just this constant, battle with yourself. And it takes a while to recognize like, no, wait, maybe I need to give myself some grace and take care of myself properly. And so I wanted to take the stage of acceptance even further and acknowledge that, yes, I might be injured, but I can still be an artist. I can still create. This is not like an ending. So that started to come a little bit after I had started initially working on the project. And the composer I'm working with, Damien Simon, his different sections of music that he was giving me all had a different kind of feel to them. And it started to kind of link up that each section felt like a different stage in this process of coming to terms with being injured. And so it just kind of started to happen one day. And I was like, wait a minute, this makes sense to me. And it was almost a therapeutic process for me, actually, just kind of discovering this and working through this while I did my piece.
Very, very cool. How did you go about choreographing it? What was your approach?
So my approach with choreography, especially with this particular project, I like to go into the studio without too much preparation. I found that for me, if I come overly prepared, that I make very stale choreography. I know some people are very blessed with the ability to see it all ahead of time and bring in their plans and just have it work out. But for me, if I over plan ahead of time, I don't do my best work. So I would come into the studio with kind of general ideas, and then I would mostly just play with my dancers. And they had to be very patient with me because I would tell them to do a certain thing over and over again, or I would tell them to imagine something. And so it's always very collaborative in that kind of a setting. When I'm doing maybe like a strict balletic piece, that's a different story. But this is a little bit more, I guess, contemporary. And so it definitely involved a lot of playing. I also had a lot of fun with the fact that my dancers were all very unique and had very special talents. And so it would be like a break, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd see one of my dancers like in some kind of crazy handstand or something. And I'd be like, this is cool. Let's use this in the piece. And okay. So yes, definitely a very collaborative process, and lots and lots of inspiration came from my dancers.
That was going to be my next question. What was the relationship like working with each of them?
Oh yes, it was amazing. A lot of them were already former students of mine from Contempo School of Dance, where I teach ballet. And so I already had a really good relationship with most of them. A few of them I met through CFCC. One is a fellow choreographer. And then another I had a connection with through the Brandon Ballet. She was guesting with Brandon Ballet, but then I saw her audition, and I was like, oh, cool. So just a lot of great personalities and interesting people, and just people I really enjoyed spending time with. So I would say, the relationship with the dancers was a great working relationship.
Awesome. How do you think they interpreted the choreography you gave them?
It was interesting that um, depending on the age of the dancer, you could tell that there was either more or less personal experience with the subject matter. Some of the younger ones haven't had a serious injury yet, and hopefully they never will. But so the older dancers who have had either chronic injuries or experienced certain things in the past, they didn't have to use their imagination very much for this piece. But for some of the younger ones, there was a lot more of, imagine if you couldn't dance kind of thing. And in the end, everyone was able to tell a very beautiful story and dig deep and interpret it in a very personal way that I think came across very beautifully.
Talk a little bit about the film technical aspect for you. What was that like?
So this was my first experience with a film project like this. The actual act of filming it was definitely a challenge. I had been thinking ahead of time. I kept reminding myself, this doesn't have to be all one take. It probably shouldn't be all one take, but because I'm so used to choreographing that way, I was like, I guess getting stuck sometimes thinking about like it was all going to be one angle, or I was forgetting that there could be levels involved with where the camera was, and there could be up close and far away. And so I feel like ahead of time, even though I was trying to tell myself these things, I wasn't even fully aware of just what was possible. And so on film day, I found myself really learning on the day of the filming. And I feel like the footage just got better and better as we went along because I was seeing what was possible and getting really excited by that.
Awesome. Yes, it's definitely a change from that proscenium space to camera.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So what challenges arose throughout the process?
So definitely the space we were filming in created certain challenges. There are, along with not having a fixed view, you also have to realize that if you're moving the camera around, that there's going to be something that'll pop up in the background that you might not want. And so that was a big challenge. There were definitely certain moments where we thought that we had a really good take, and then we would see in the background maybe a reflection in the mirror of some equipment or somebody who wasn't actually dancing at the time. And so that was a very big challenge. And then also the fact that it is very taxing on the dancers to keep doing take after take. And so I remember feeling bad for my dancers as it got late in the evening, as we kept having to retake certain things, that they, were getting tired, and, just kind of keeping them energized and keeping them focused and everything. That was definitely a challenge that you don't have to really face in a live show because you do it once and it's done. And then another challenge, I guess, is the perfectionism that a lot of dancers have. Is you're like, oh, but that was really good, but we could probably do it better, so let's do it again. And so you can get stuck in the endless, because we can do it again, like just keeping on going on forever.
Right. And I have to say, I'm a little proud of what we did in the space because you're right. It was an absolute challenge. It didn't help that it was a smaller space that we were filming in, but it also had mirrors. So, and the mirrors were placed like right next to where you needed to be filming. So we had to be super careful to avoid those. But yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. Like this film is very taxing on dancers. I mean, it's performance enough is taxing, but the fact that you're having to retake something, not only to get the dancing and the spacing right, but to also get the film aspect right. So everything has to align. Absolutely right. So what were some of your favorite elements of collaboration for this?
Collaboration is something that used to scare me when I was first dabbling in collaboration. It was actually a requirement as part of our choreography classes at school, at college. And I remember being terrified of that. Sorry, my cat.
That's okay.
Noise. I remember being terrified of relying on somebody else, and that would push me outside of my comfort zone too. Like, oh, I have this certain aesthetic or this certain vision, and if I'm working with somebody, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And so it used to terrify me. And then I don't know what happened in recent years, but now I get such inspiration from working with other artists. And I find myself creating things that I never would have thought of before. So, like I said before, collaborating with my dancers on the choreography, that was always amazing. And then choosing to collaborate on music, that was another brand new thing for me. I hadn't worked with a composer before, and I wasn't really decided on doing that until on our list of collaborators for CFCC, I was listening to samples of music from musicians, and I was listening to samples of Damien Simon's music, and it just kind of made me want to move. And it sounded like, it definitely sounded like something I could create too. And so I just right away was like, oh, okay, let's see if he'll want to work with me. And very lucky for me, he's had an immense experience working with choreographers. So that was amazing.
And he even wrote a book about it.
Absolutely, yes. So that was a really amazing thing for somebody like me, who it was like my first time working with a composer on a piece. And then he was very, very experienced, and so he was kind of able to kind of steer me along when I would get stuck, and was very kind, and made the process very smooth. And I feel like if I had been working with somebody else, I maybe would have gotten confused or overwhelmed myself in certain ways. And so I feel like I was very lucky with this particular collaboration, and I feel like I learned so much. And in future, I'll know sort of more how to plan ahead, and I'll know better how to ask for what I want with music and other types of collaboration too, communication aspect.
So was the process what you expected from like when you started to versus where we finished?
Oh, I feel like it was actually, I'm not even sure if I remember what I was expecting going into this. I feel so long ago now.
It does seem like forever.
Yeah. I think in some ways I almost expected it to be harder. And I think that is due to, a large part due to you, that you are so good at this now, like the leadership side of things and keeping us organized and keeping us on track. I think that was very, very helpful. And I think if I had been maybe choreographing in an earlier season of CFCC, maybe I would have been more lost. I feel like I had a lot of people who came before that kind of helped pave a way for me, that made it a little bit easier. And so maybe I was expecting to feel more panicked. And I actually,
Wow.
I mean, there were times where I would get stressed out, but I feel like in general, it was a fairly smooth process for me, actually. And maybe I was a little bit surprised by that.
I'm so glad to heir that. So how did you get involved with CFCC in the first place?
All right. So, a fellow teacher at Contempo School of Dance, Carla Armstrong, she's another ballet teacher. We were backstage at a Contempo recital, and she was telling me about one of the CFCC meetups. And she was like, I'm, a part of this thing, and you should come and meet these dancers. And she's like, I know sometimes it's hard to get cool creative classes, as an adult, and she was like,
Sure.
come and experience this. And I was like, okay, cool. So I came to a meetup, and it was very handy for me because it was being held at Contempo. And so I took some of the classes and had a lot of fun. And I remember hearing the choreographers that were there talking about their pieces and thinking that was so cool sounding. And then I was very lucky because you were still casting for your piece at that time.
Yes.
And you were kind enough to take me on into your piece. And so that was my first experience with CFCC, and working as a dancer, and just getting really excited to see what could be possible if I were to choreograph.
Very cool. So what is next for you?
Well, at the moment, I'm getting excited for the premiere of the film festival. I am thrilled to get to see my work on a big screen, and to share it on the internet, and get some feedback from that. I'm really hoping to investigate other film festivals and see if I can share the film elsewhere as well in the future, and get more feedback and see if this is something that I want to pursue more of in the future. I think the film is a very fascinating way to view choreography now. And it's kind of opened my eyes to lots more possibilities of storytelling. And so I'm interested in continuing to explore film, and possibly seeing if I can find more companies and groups that I can work with my choreography, and just keep exploring choreography further.
Yes, I love that. Film. Keep with the film.
Yes.
So how can people find you, Anna?
The best way would be through Instagram. My main dance account is Anna Smith Dancer, and it's spelled ANNA for Anna, and that would be the best way to find me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, Anna. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'm so happy you were with us this season, and it's been awesome. And we look forward to seeing more from you.
Yay, I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Of course. That was Anna Smith, Season 3 choreographer with Central Florida Choreographers Collaboration. You can see Anna's project along with dozens of other films in ChoreoCollab Film Fest 2022. ChoreoCollab Film Fest 2022 is screening online until November 20th exclusively at ChoreoCollab.com. We hope you'll join us next time. Keep creating, friends.